You know, it's very, very interesting. I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you immediately. There was some confusion there. Okay. Was it the fault of the players, or was it the fault of the conductor? Always the fault of the conductor. Right? If anything goes wrong in a musical piece or in life, it's always the fault of the conductor. Right? So that's a very important for you thing to realize. And never, ever blame the players for what they do, because it's always your responsibility. So let me just talk immediately about your walk from your chair to the podium. You looked worried, right? And it's not surprising. You've got a whole lot of people and about 10,000 people looking through the thing. So you're naturally a little bit worried. But you cannot be worried if you're going up to conduct, because you know what happens to the worry? It spreads all around the orchestra, and everybody's oh my God, what's going to happen? Is it going to be good? So your main job is to convey joy, delight, confidence, and love. So go back to your chair and come back. Don't take your leave your music. All right. All right. Okay. Remember what? Joy, energy, confidence, and love. Here he comes. Okay. Great. Okay, great. Good. Off we go. Schubert. Two, three, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Good, very good. All right, now, let me just tell you, one of the problems you're having is in your communication with the players, because you look down so much and you look still, unfortunately, so worried. Why do you conduct? Why are you conducting? I'm about to tell you, all right? But, all right?
Orchestral music has always spoken to me.
Right.
I've been able to communicate through that
right.
in a way that I never could with words.
Right, great, okay. So you've got something to offer, right? What is it?
My story through the music.
Great, beautiful answer. My story through the music. Now, do you think that this is some of the best, it's never going to get better for you than this moment, right? Whoever you conduct. Do you think they got your story?
No.
No, they didn't at all. They didn't at all. And in fact, orchestra players spend a lot of time being very bored. Right? It's a tragedy of orchestral life, because they're all great musicians. They went into orchestra because they went into playing because they loved music, and they played in a youth orchestra when they were 15, and they, oh my God, this is the greatest thing. And then they come in and the conductor goes like this, and they say, oh, what a pity. And they get, as time goes on, they get more and more and more miserable, right? And you know, they say, they did a study, I don't know if you know this, they did a study of job satisfaction at Harvard. 28 professions they looked at. You know where the orchestra players came? Just below prison guards in terms of their job satisfaction. Because it's a miserable life, because you can't do anything. You just have to sit there and play. So it depends on you to bring out the glory that is inside this man and inside this man and inside this woman, and bring it out so that they feel, oh, he's asking me everything I've got. But you're not doing that, obviously, because you're too worried about yourself. Right? You're anxious about yourself. We don't care about you. We care about Schubert and what his message is. So this is a big deal, because you think of conducting as moving your hands. It isn't that, it's conveying your heart. Right? You got that? Yes. That's all they care about. Yes. And look, the hands are important too. But the problem with the way you're conducting is you're doing 1, 2, 3. This music is not 1, 2, 3. It's 1, 1, 1, 1. Right? It's all, every bar is a beat. Can you get that idea? Bom, bom. Because if you were in the shower, you wouldn't sing bom, 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 bom. No, you wouldn't sing that way. You sing, and then your hands do what you're singing. Right? It's not the other way around. You got it? Yeah. So it's not the hands that lead, it's the heart and the voice and the song and the communication and the joy. And getting this fellow, was up late and he didn't get coffee this morning, and it's your job to wake him up. Right? Right? Early in the morning. You got it? It's a completely different job than the one you think it is. Right? And I'm not blaming you, I'm just inviting you to start thinking about it. First of all, get to know them as you're conducting. Because you've got 10 fabulous musicians here. And your job is to know every one of them, know their heart, know their playing, and know what they love, and know what they're interested in. All of that is done while you're conducting. You don't have to say a word, all right? Right. Try again. So move the tempo. It's an allegro, it's not an andagio. Okay. It's not an andante, it's an allegro. So something like that. Yes. Okay.
From the allegro mater.
Yes. Yeah. The trouble with this is we're about to play music and I'm the conductor. Right. It's not about being a conductor. In fact, don't conduct. It's about being a human being full of love of music, which you can't wait to share. Right? So don't ever hold your hands like that, because that says, I'm a conductor, and very little else. Right? Do you see what I mean by doing that? So put your hands down, and now breathe, open your heart, and say to the cellos and basses, and every one of them has that sound in their heart, and they're waiting for you to let it out, like an animal in a cage. Okay? That note is in a cage, and you're going to release it. And the beauty of this situation is that you know that they're capable of doing it, and you don't doubt it for one single moment. Right? Right? You don't doubt it. Okay? The doubt of the conductor is like poison. The feeling that they aren't good enough, that they can't do it, that they'll never be up to the standard. That is like pouring poison over them. You get it? Okay, so. That's coming better. It's much, much, much better. It's beginning to be in touch with the music. So now I've got some bad news for you. Okay. If you come from bar 9, right, that's where the allegro starts, okay? Yes. So we're going to start there, and you're not going to conduct, okay? No conducting. And you're going to hear what they have to offer. Are you ready?
Yes.
One, boom, boom, boom. That's pretty bad news for conductors. So, those of you in the audience who are leaders, corporate leaders, and who have teams and so on, remember this, because your people can do just as well without you. Actually, I got some really good news. They can do better without you. Right? Because we think that by meddling in the affairs of our players or people who work for us, that we can improve them. Actually, we get in the way of them most of the time. And because they have their own ideas and their own means of communication, and you have a fabulous, this is a world-class concertmaster. Watch out, 20 years from now, he's going to be the leader of a major orchestra. I'm absolutely certain about it, okay? But I could say the same of all of these people. So, and you shouldn't be conducting a group at this level, of course, you know that. It's a huge privilege for you, but it's also a bit of a challenge, right, for you to do. So the question now is, what can you add that they can't do on their own? That's the question. Or that they are not likely to do on their own. For instance, is it ta ti do, or is it ta di? In other words, is the F sharp in the flute and oboe an upbeat to the B, or is it coming from the B? And you probably can tell that. But the next question is more interesting. Are the 3/8 notes a separate upbeat, or do they belong to the F sharp and the B? And Schubert has given the game away, hasn't he? Do you know how?
The slurs. With
the slur. He said, don't do what you think the music is doing, which is ta-rom, ta-da-da-dee. He says, no, ta-dee-da-da-da. All in one slur. And then you, ta-dee. Now, they won't come up with that on their own. And in fact, what they'll do on their own is kind of meld the opinion so nothing comes out. Right? And that's why playing in an orchestra can be very dull, because it's the kind of mishmash of everybody's approximate musical ideas. The only way the whole orchestra can think the same way is because of the conductor. And that's the job, to make sure that everybody's thinking the same way. The only way you can do that is by being very clear in your conducting. And then the other thing, ta-da-dee, that da-da-dee at the beginning, da-da-da, comes from da-dee-da-da-dee-da-da, dee-da-dee. That D, C sharp, could you do D, C sharp, F, D, dom, ba, B? I can't sing that low, you understand what I mean? And he takes that semitone, da, 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 and makes a whole musical idea, da-da-dee. So you want to get them to da-da-da, da-da-dee, da-da-da-dee, da-da-da. Do you hear that? Da-da-dee, da-da-da-dee, da-da-da, da-dee-dee, da-da-dee. And what it does is it makes it very sad. And if it's too slow, you can't get that. It goes da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-dee-dee-da-da. This is desperately sad, hopelessly sad, moving, terrifying, all right? So can you get some of that?
Yes.
All right, I'll give you one last chance and then we're going to move on, okay? All right.
From the beginning, please.
Yeah, don't conduct. Look, you see, you don't want to stand in front of them and say, I'm about to conduct you, which means no, I'm going to dominate you. No. You know, you're going to say, hello, should we go? I mean, that's the way I hear it, because it's an allegro, it's not an andante. I know you've heard 1,000 recordings and they all, right, so do it again. Whoa! They say, "Wow, that's amazing!" That chord on the second beat, like that. Right. One last chance, and then we'll move on. Okay, now, so I'm going to stop you. You should be very grateful to Alfonso because he's been teaching you and he's allowed you this privilege. All right. Hans Swarovski, who was a great conducting teacher in Vienna, didn't allow his students to conduct an orchestra for 8 years. I heard that. That may not be accurate. I don't know the exact length, but a long time. Right. And he only let them in front of an orchestra when they were ready. And what he meant by ready, know the music. That goes without saying. But what he really meant is when you have something to offer the players that they value and want and are inspired by, then you're ready to stand in front of an orchestra. You're not ready yet, which is fine. You've had this experience. Don't use it as a career move. All right, it's not a career move. It was, in a way, it was a shock, realizing, first of all, it's such a privilege to conduct people of this. You have no idea who these musicians are. Every time I go in front of the youth orchestra, this is a youth orchestra, every time I go, I feel this enormous privilege to be with these musicians because of what they bring to it. It's incredible. And so, this is great excitement. Now you have to decide, is this what I want to go on doing? Because if it is, you're going to have to think deeply about music and about who you're being so that when you stand in front of an orchestra, people are inspired, excited, energized, even the ones who are half asleep because they didn't get because they didn't have their coffee yet. You see what I mean? You're dealing when the child is ill and they really wish they were with the child and not at this bloody rehearsal. Right? So our job is to keep them energized, joyful, connected, and alive. That's the thing. And to do that, you have to be truly at the top of your human game. You got it? All right, so don't take this as a reprimand, it's an inspiration, right? To raise your game. Because to be a conductor is to be a leader of people, right? So there's no difference between what you're doing on the podium, what Mandela was doing when he led South Africa. What? But most conductors don't realize that. They don't realize that. One of the things I love about that Christopher Wilkins guy over there is he gets that in his DNA. Every time he opens his mouth or moves his hands or interacts with people, it's an inspiration. He never questions it. But most conductors, unfortunately, treat it like a job. And the players resent it. Or they close down. sometimes both. All right. So this is a shocking statement, but it's not only that every time there's a mistake, it's the fault of the conductor, but every time an orchestra player is bored, it's the fault of the conductor. And incidentally, that's true of that 8-year-old child. When his eyes are not shining, it's no good blaming him. Right? 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 So ask this question: who am I being that my player's eyes are not shining? That's our responsibility. And do you get that? Great. Fantastic. Bravo. Well done. Julian. Yeah.